Greetings, everyone from Australia. I'm really excited and grateful to be moderating this panel today because we're going to be covering a topic that I'm very passionate about and something that I think we don't spend enough time talking about, and that's the employees of B Corps. So for the next 30 minutes, we're going to have a chat with two employees of two different B Corps and hear from them about what it's like to be an impact-driven employee working for a purpose-driven B-certified company, and also hear about some of the ways companies can empower and engage their employees. So joining me today, we've got Caitlin Clark, who is the Global PR Manager at Tony's Chocolonely, and Gunhild, the Chief People Officer at Organic Basics. Before we get started, we just want to quickly get an understanding of how many people who are listening right now actually work for a certified B Corp. So you'll see a poll that's popped up in front of you, and please just answer the poll if you can, just so we can get a good idea of the numbers. And then whilst we're sort of collecting the numbers on that poll, I just want to talk a little bit more and remind you that, I think we often talk about the B Corp community, obviously, how many companies are part of that community, the impact, our impact management tools, the policy work that we're doing, all the positive impact our community is making. But as I said, I think we rarely talk about what it's like to be an employee within the B Corps. Great, so here we can see, so we've got around 61% that are currently working for a B Corp and 39% that are not. So a nice little balance there, which is good to see. So yes, as I said, we rarely talk about what it's like to be an employee within the B Corps. And I think what we'd like to talk about today is some of the positives and perhaps some of the challenges of being an impact-driven employee or a change maker, working for a company that they're really passionate about. We currently have over 4,000 B Corps in our community, which means that we have over 85,000 employees working for certified B Corp companies. Just a reminder that with the limited time that we have today, we won't actually probably have a chance for people to ask questions to both Gunhild and Caitlin. However, I am going to do my best to keep an eye on the chat and try and see if we can, if you're expanding on something or asking a clarifying question, if I can get that in to either of our panelists. But perhaps we can get started. And to start us off, Caitlin, maybe you can tell us a little bit about whether you actively sought out Tony's because you knew they were a B Corp, or whether they became a B Corp once you were already working for the company.
Yeah, first of all, thanks so much for having me on this panel, Claire. It's great to be here. Yeah, so working for Tony's, I actually deliberately chose to apply for a B Corp. This is actually already the third B Corp that I'm working for, so clearly there's a bit of a pattern. Yeah, so with Tony's, definitely it's something that I chose because I already knew what it was like working for a B Corp in the past. So before Tony's, I also worked for Dopper, which is, anyone from the Netherlands probably will know, it's the reusable water bottle company. And then prior to that, I also worked for another B Corp in Australia. Probably not known to anyone in Europe, but koala.com is actually already quite a prominent B Corp now in Australia, but they actually became certified as I worked there. So it's sort of a bit of both, but definitely with Tony's, it was a deliberate decision.
Okay, great. And there was actually in between the three companies, if I'm correct, you went from B Corp to non-B Corp and then back to B Corp, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, moving back to the Netherlands because I am Dutch. Yeah, I basically I had one condition for my boyfriend whose idea it was to move back, and I basically said, look, it's all good, but as long as I can continue to work for a B Corp. So I actually pulled up the list of the B Corp directory list, literally went through every single company to see if there was a job available somewhere, and unfortunately at that time, like I couldn't find somewhere immediately. So I actually joined a food delivery service. So yeah, I actually worked for non-B Corp for a year, so for a while as well. Yeah.
Okay. And perhaps just to expand on that, why then do you think having that experience of going from B Corp to non-B Corp and then back, why is it important for you to be working for a B Corporation?
Yeah, I think ultimately that for me, it came down to my personal values and whether that aligns with the company as well that I'm working for. So, working for a food delivery service in particular, I would say I'm very much an activist myself. I care about the environment, I care about society. And then working for a company that is, essentially, creating a lot of waste and also contributing to sort of health issues within society is probably then not the best place for me to work. So I think that's also a huge reason why I look to sort of align my personal mission with the company that I'm working for in the end.
Okay, amazing. And Gunhild, for you, did you, when you joined Organic Basics, I believe you've been working for them, it's quite recent that you've joined them. Did you know about the B Corp movement? Did you actively seek them out, or did you learn about it as you joined? And also for you sort of leading the people team and leading, you're not just an employee perspective, but you're also thinking about all of the employees that and the benefits and the things that you want to set up for them.
Yeah. So no, I actually didn't know. It's almost embarrassing now, but I didn't know about the B Corp movement at that point. So what happened was that I realized that I really needed to be in a place that had people as one of the core values. And I've been working as head of people different places, and I think I was really, really tired, or it felt wrong to do like engagement scores and then equal them with X performance. It was something like I just at some point came to a stop and said, I don't think I can do this anymore because I don't feel it in any ways contributes to my values and what I actually want to do. And also when you sit in my position, it's also like, I think that if you're not true to your values there, it can be a really, really difficult place to be actually. So I decided that I wanted to go somewhere where creating a healthy work environment was enough in itself. And I wanted to find people who just wanted to create a workplace that they wanted to work in. And then I talked to a friend and they said, maybe you should talk to Organic Basics. And then a week later I did. So I was very, very lucky.
Amazing. And now that you're sort of working in Organic Basics, from what you've seen, what do you feel like Organic Basics is doing that helps empower people there and helps them inspire them? Or perhaps maybe what are some of the things that you're hoping to introduce as the Chief People Officer to Organic Basics to help with that?
Yes. I think in an overall, just a kinder language about what it means to be human in an organization. I know that's not like a policy or anything, but there is something, I think I come also from a literature background, there's something about just speaking differently about being human in an organization. So that's one of the things in just like a very general. One of the new initiatives that I'm very excited about is that I'm creating an internal engagement committee. So instead of having it from the top going down, right now that it's starting off in January, we're planning everything now, but like that we have the employees help with the engagement and actually take part of it. And they get a budget that I can't touch. So they have to decide what well-being initiatives we should focus on in the coming quarter. And then it's supposed to be every quarter that we like review it and do it. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I think, that's one of them at least.
Okay, great. And for you, Caitlin, I guess thinking across the B Corps that you've worked at, how have you felt empowered or inspired by those B Corps, or anything that you think would be helpful for companies to introduce?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's sort of a common thread amongst all the B Corps that I've worked for, and that is that they all have a very strong purpose and a mission that is very clear and it's very powerful, and it's something that really, you know, joins the whole company sort of together, because together we are on this sort of mission in order to sort of achieve, you know, what we set out to achieve. So I think having a strong purpose as a company, to me as an employee, is really important. It's really, what motivates me and what inspires me. But I think the other thing, aside from purpose alone, and that's something that I've really learned throughout my sort of impact journey as well, is that purpose alone is not enough. We really also need to know how we're going to get there. So having a really clear impact strategy, having this roadmap with KPIs and clear markers, I think that's not only a really transparent way to communicate to your employees, but it also makes sure that, you know, employees know exactly what they're working towards and what sort of KPIs they need to hit in order to get to, you know, where we want to be. So I think that's really important. And I'm really, you know, glad that, you know, joining Tony's, I was really surprised at how well thought through their impact strategy is to Tony's roadmap. And I think also being able to then celebrate those successes once you do hit those KPIs, and being transparent about it when you don't hit those KPIs, I think that's also really sort of motivating for employees. So so purpose, strategy, and reflection.
Great. Yeah, completely agree. I think we try and do a very similar thing at B Lab to set up sort of that groundwork for employees to be guided through. And you know what you said about purpose, I guess I want to touch on that a little bit. Do you feel like as employees that are working for purpose-driven companies that are probably extremely passionate about what that company is doing, do you feel like an employee might feel more impacted by the decisions that the company is making? And how, I guess, Gunhild, I'd be interested to hear, how does a company help mitigate that or help an employee through that from, say, if it's a decision that maybe the employee doesn't necessarily agree with? How do you sort of balance that, because you've got this strong passion and purpose?
Yes. When looking at what makes people happy at work, like one of them is also fairness and also agreeing with the values or the purpose of the company. I think joining a B Corp is even stronger for the employees, and I can definitely tell here it's been a different experience with people being much more engaged and activistic in wanting to change, not in their own field but in all fields. One of the ways that I think that we're doing it well here is trying to expose ways we want to do be decisions or strategy before they're ready. And it's a little bit vulnerable coming in and saying, okay, we have kind of a strategy that kind of looks like this, and it's a little bit fluffy in the end, maybe. And people are like, we had a discussion today actually about this, the difference between like having the decision power to change stuff and also wanting clarity on like where we're exactly going. And being in that field, because if we set in stone, people won't have the power anymore, you know? So I think it's something about what I think we do well here, or what I really saw, it's not me, it's me coming in, just observing, is that trusting that we can actually show things that are not done and try and figure out how we as a community is gonna fix it. So it becomes very much based on co-creation.
Great, great.
So I think that's
and Caitlin,
one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with, you know, Gunhild, and I definitely, from a personal experience, I 100% can guarantee you that B Corp employees are more engaged with the mission, and that is a really good thing, but also means that, yes, they do deeply care about the decisions that are made at sort of managerial level, and they want to make sure that it's still in line with ultimately that mission that we're all trying to achieve. So yes, I 100% am with you on that, Gunhild. And I think, you know, one of the ways in which companies can really sort of harness that spirit is by involving employees. You know, I think the example that you gave about setting up an engagement committee, I think that's really great. You know, I think as employees who are so invested in the company, what we really want is just to be heard. So breaking down those barriers between the layers, and consulting all stakeholders in the end. I think employees are just as much stakeholders as all other stakeholders. So I think that's a big one.
Great, 100%. Okay, and then also sort of related to that, you know, I think with that passion that we're talking about that B Corp employees have, also comes this very hardworking mentality. And I'd be very interested to hear, in your experience, both of you, how do you sort of balance that? How do you make sure, especially, you know, in the time that we are in now, where you could be in Australia in the middle of the night and be online? How do you sort of balance and help an employee balance that to make sure that they are looking after their wellness? Is there anything, you know, Caitlin, that you've seen across the B Corps that could help you, you know, maintain that and keep that sort of healthy state of mind?
Yeah, I mean, talking about benefits specifically, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I guess at Toadies, we have a really big book of benefits. It's literally a 30-page PDF, so that's really helpful, of course. And yeah, creates a really strong sort of team spirit, just knowing how much Tony's invest in the culture. And I guess one of the biggest things for me is unlimited holidays. So that's something that Tony's offers to all their employees. And I know that there's also studies out there that sort of prove that unlimited holidays don't actually work, or people don't actually tend to use them. But yeah, I think it's also about the company to sort of foster that mentality of trust, I guess, within the employees, that feeling of trust, I should say. And I think that enables me as an employee to sort of create that sort of healthy balance whenever I need to. So yes, I always give, 150% into everything that I do. But at the same time, I know that the company trusts me enough to take a step back and, take a day off whenever I need to. So I think that's a really big one.
Nice. Gunhild, anything from Organic Basics?
Yeah, I think that coming in after COVID and coming in just in a world that's a little bit unhappy in general, I think that I've seen that one of my roles has actually been this, like, how do you take the passion and not dry out? How do you actually make it flourish? And there's been a lot of talk about the whole idea of being like the wholeness, like going to work and being your whole self. And I really like what I want for Organic Base and what we're working on is also like, yeah, you can be your whole self. I think you can be vulnerable here, but you also need to be a whole person. You also have to have something outside of work. And I think what we've seen more and more and more is that we need to figure out a way of not drying out that passion, basically, that you're spending too much energy. And that's one of the projects I'm really working on. I've called it like the regenerative work life, which is, it's one of those projects that we've just thrown out and been like, we're gonna work on this. But the idea is also because we are B Corp, but we also scale up, we work with very, very young people who has like one or second job. So it's actually also like, how do you get healthy habits in and how do you flourish? Because if you can get the best of a B Corp and a scale up and not burn out, basically, this is what we're aiming for. And I think this is actually also the most difficult as a passion-driven company. How do you create healthy boundaries for people and make sure that they restore their energy? So the idea is kind of finding by design a way of making sure that people restore their energy and take care of themselves.
Yeah, maybe.
And I think it's,
oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yep.
I just wanted to add, like, one thing that really sort of I got triggered by Gunhild was that I think this is something, you know, especially during, you know, the past year and a half of us sitting at home and really working really long hours if we weren't working long hours before, because we're just simply, you know, getting a coffee, opening a laptop, and we're at work. I think there's really this risk, especially with these sort of really, you know, myself as well, like I'm a very passionate individual, really passionate about what I do. And then sort of maintaining that balance from a mental sort of mindset perspective, as well as simply sort of energy perspective. And I think that's, yeah, definitely something that I struggled with in the past year and a half. And I think sometimes it's just really, it's okay to sort of tell yourself that you can take a break. You don't have to be changing the world every single day. And in the end, it's also, you know, B Corp is also still a company, and the company will also, you know, make an impact without you. You don't have to always be 100% on the ball, you know, to drive change, essentially. So yeah, it's that little mindset switch as well.
Yeah, and just to add one thing, I had like a talk about well-being and burnout for 2 weeks ago. And one thing that I feel when we talk about feeling empowered and actually trusted here was that I had a slide that was like, it's not you, it's us, you know, it's your job, basically. And actually talking about what are the fundamental structures, also from our side, that makes people get stressed. And are we actually balancing the resources and the demands clear enough? Are we actually able to do that? And I think for me, it's so important to externalize a lot of the, like, showing the structures also within the company, also within society, also, and try and get it a little bit out of the individual and saying, like, it's not you. If you're feeling stressed, it's not because you're not doing an amazing job, because you also get stressed and then you feel like, oh, I'm so bad at my job. Why can't I just fix it, you know? And I think it's so important for a company actually to show the structures within that's also on us to fix and not within the individual to just cope with. So that's, I think that's really, really important as a company.
Yeah, I really agree. And I think it's interesting what you said as well about sort of forming those habits, and especially from if you're young or maybe new to a certain company, and you sort of can easily slip into those habits. And I think it's amazing to hear that you know, you're both aware of that, and also that there's the encouragement that it's not just on this person to take it all in, and to, you know, it's us, it's the company as well. Well, we have a couple of minutes left. So lastly, what I'd like to just touch on, I think, as well, is kind of this balance that I think maybe employees of a B Corp might need to make between the contribution and the impact that they're making at work, and then their individual contribution, and whether you think as an employee that's making an impact, does that, you know, my job at a B Corp is the impact that I'm going to make, and that's it? Or is there extra pressure then outside of work to make more of an impact and do more? And again, kind of that mental stress that is on someone. I don't know, Caitlin, if you have any sort of, you said you know you're an activist and from the heart. How do you feel? Do you sort of switch off at work and then after work and that's it? Or do you have that constant demand on yourself?
Yes. So personally, I'm very much engaged with anything to do with sort of nature, environment, and society. But I have seen it go both ways as well, I must say. So I have worked with colleagues in the past who feel that, you know, working for a B Corp is sort of, that's already them doing, you know, taking that first step, which is definitely true. And yeah, I think that's, but for me, I personally, as I mentioned before, yeah, I think my personal mission is to really leave this place in a better state than I found it. So that means that my mission extends way beyond what I do in my day-to-day life. Yeah.
Okay, great. And do you think there's anything that Tony's could do to kind of help alleviate that, or that's just something that I think you as a person will put that pressure on yourself?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something I put pressure on myself in order to do this, but yeah, I think what really helps is always being, you know, part of a collective. And that's why I think working for a B Corp is so powerful, because you are in this environment with all these other people that are so like-minded, and that really gives you energy and the drive to make a difference. And going beyond that as well, I think looking at the B Corp community, you know, going to these B Corp events when they were still in person, but also digitally, I think, you know, you can really feel that energy, and people are connecting with each other. People are talking about solutions. There are work groups that you can join. I think all these things are not only beneficial in order to, learn and grow together, but it simply gives you the energy and the drive, to make a difference.
Great. Gunhild, anything just before we wrap up on that topic?
I think on my perspective, it is a little bit trying to calm down, like because to make sure that people actually take care of themselves. And I don't think I could ever stop Caitlin in any ways. I think it's just taking out I think for me, one of my big things I'm working for, as you can hear, is also taking a little bit the individual perspective out, because it can be really tough to be a one person with a mission or purpose, you know. So I work a little bit on that, just to be mindful of how people, what kind of pressure they put on themselves. That's some things I have a lot of discussions when I hear also over lunch or something, like, you know, it's not on you individually. Just to be mindful of that. But but that's
we're
just
in this together,
like Caitlin.
Yeah. Of course. Amazing. Well, I think I really enjoyed this discussion, and I know probably everyone really enjoyed it as well. As I said, I think it's something that we don't often stop to talk about, and especially in these times, it's been rough, and I think all the employees of B Corps are doing amazing things, and it's fantastic that both of you are sort of were willing to sort of talk about this and provide so much valuable insight. So thank you so much, both of you, for your time today.